This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Whether you love true crime or comedy, celebrity interviews or news, you call the shots on what's in your podcast queue. And guess what? Now you can call them on your auto insurance too with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive. It works just the way it sounds. You tell Progressive how much you want to pay for car insurance, and they'll show you coverage options that fit your budget. Get your quote today at Progressive.com to join the over 28 million drivers who trust Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
Welcome back to Come Back with a Warrant podcast. I'm Brandon Dinetz.
And I'm Monica Ishak. Before we kickstart this week's episode, this is your reminder that this podcast is not legal advice. It's real, unfiltered, and for entertainment purposes only. If you need to speak with a lawyer, call one. Or better yet, call us. Welcome back. This week, we are on episode 2 of the Epstein Files series that we chose to do this week. So we are going to dive in this week on basically the latest dump of everything in the Epstein Files. And we did talk about, the procedural aspects of different reasons why things are happening now in episode 1, but we really did focus on how this came to light to begin with.
Right.
And so now it's coming to light because of the Epstein File Transparency Act, which we were talking about before the episode. And, there have been, since this has been filed, there have been 3 million files basically dumped, and slowly there's more coming out because they're being challenged all the time, constantly on the basis, because I might be getting ahead of myself, kind of bases for why the DOJ is saying that certain documents are basically should not be disclosed to the public because they're privileged.
Right. Well,
or, all those things. So
we're going to get into all that. I think so part 1, we really talked about how the world starts to know about Epstein as a monster and the things that he's doing. And that's through the Palm Beach case and the federal non-prosecution agreement and the shenanigans that happened.
How we got here.
Now you fast forward, and last year, the Epstein Files Transparency Act is passed, and the act stands for the premise that all unclassified files related to Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell need to be disclosed. Yeah. And not only disclosed, but they need to be basically put into a searchable online database and made public. And to date, 3.5 million of those documents have been released. There are millions more that have not been released. But what we know is that the documents that have been released, we know where they've come from. They've come from different sources. So we've got documents that come from civil litigation, people that were either suing Jeffrey Epstein or suing Ghislaine Maxwell. And when we say civil litigation, we're talking about things like depositions. We're talking about victim statements. We know the criminal investigations into Epstein. There was all the information that was obtained there.
You got to think about it for the DOJ to build a case, because this is all the investigations that we even touched on in episode 1 too.
Right.
And it's they were building a case against him. So what they needed was literally everything on him, especially things that were already in litigation, all of his former statements, all of his former depositions, what other victims and witnesses were saying, because they were collecting this information with the intention of prosecuting. So it really included everything.
Right. And the ability to have all his emails and everything, we don't know what the criminal investigation had in terms of access to that, because we know it was blocked from having that based on what we talked about in the first episode, that a lot of the evidence was removed from Epstein's property before the police executed search warrants.
And the same thing happened, by the way, in New York again.
Right.
With the feds.
Right. And what happened, so if we fast forward after 2008 and we move up into 2019, in 2019, the Department of Justice comes out that they are going to, that they arrested and they are going to prosecute Jeffrey Epstein for sex trafficking. And this investigation comes out of the Southern District of New York. This investigation is much broader. This includes a lot of actions that occurred in New York, Florida, New Mexico, the Virgin Islands, and other international incidents. This is basically where Epstein is now, he's arrested coming in 2019, coming back on a flight from Paris. He's arrested at the airport, taken into custody. They have a bond hearing for him. And at the bond hearing, one of the things that is brought up at the bond hearing is that the search warrants that were executed on the apartment in New York, or not really apartment, the house in New York,
building.
They found a little $70 million shack.
Gift from his friend Les Wexler, which we'll talk about.
We'll talk about that. Yeah. They find passports that are phony, that have different fake names. They find a packet of diamonds. And if you take the combination of diamonds and fake passports, that is basically the key to travel anywhere in the world without getting caught, and the way that you hide.
Yeah.
So they preclude him from, the court denies his bond motion. And we'll talk about what happens shortly thereafter that. But what we're talking about today is the release of the files that at least are released at this point. And many of them are, even the documents that have come out now are still heavily redacted. And a lot of those redactions, like you said, are being challenged.
I want to say heavily.
Well, there's a lot of redactions.
But, I know.
There's a lot of people's names that are covered up that shouldn't be.
The reason why I said not heavily is because some of them, the redactions are such bullshit that some of the redactions
are just not done right. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
It's kind of just, but yeah, there's redactions everywhere.
If you know how to search the files, like, you can start finding things that are supposedly hidden.
Right.
You can uncover certain things.
Right. But yeah, to your point, there are so many redactions that are being challenged.
But now, the public, came out and said, we want these files. We want to know everything that's going on. We want to know what is, what was being kept from us. We want to know what the government has in terms of evidence. And the response, from the government is to release the information that they have, and they redact the information based on
that wasn't like
their criteria for redaction.
That's after what though? That wasn't.
Well, that's after
that wasn't the initial response, but yes.
No. I'm saying after the act
was passed. Yeah,
because the government didn't. The government had these records for
years, decades,
and didn't release them.
Literally.
So this didn't come out. And like I said in the first episode, this stretches across the political aisle. This stretches across the different administrations that were in power in this country and in other countries.
Well, which makes sense why it's been sat on for so long.
Right. And the fact is that nobody, no party, no group comes out unscathed.
Here. Yeah.
Whether it's religious group, whether it's political party, whether it's nationality, nobody's coming out unscathed.
Yeah.
So there is evidence that implicates people all over the place. So that was the incentive to keep everything kind of under wraps, because no matter who you are, somebody from your team, your party, your affiliation was going to get hit.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why these were hidden. Now, you can say, which political party had more people involved. I think it doesn't really make a difference at this point.
I don't think so either.
The truth of the matter is that you have, current and former presidents involved. You have current and former CEOs of corporations involved.
The people that are running this country,
and others.
Yeah. But the thing is, I'm focusing so much on America because of the influence that America has in the world.
Sure.
And like literally the founders of the corporation, Amazon, like everything we use, Microsoft, like I'm like all these people, Bill Gates, Elon Musk, like all these people that are literally at the tippy top of this country in terms of financial resources and political influence and social influence and control. Exactly.
These are people that don't only control the top businesses, they control the narrative.
Exactly.
They are in charge of companies that can control what public opinion is.
Yeah.
Whether that's, telecom communications, whether that's news agencies, whether that's social media groups. They are the ones that can control whatever the message is that's going to come out.
Because they own it, literally.
Everything that you learn more and more about this, that's what this is all about.
It's so scary.
And it's very scary. And it's all about control.
Yeah.
And who Jeffrey Epstein was and who he was working for, we're never going to get a straight answer on. And one thing that I want to preface before we deep dive into any of this is there is a theory out there that this information, even itself, is coming out in such a way that it's just designed to stir up chaos and make it so people are, sleuths going down every single rabbit hole that, you keep just looking for the next document, the next email, the next soundbite, the next video.
It's happening.
And that is what's happening because you look up and down the internet and you have videos from everybody.
You should see my YouTube queue.
Right.
Literally.
I'm doing research for this. I can only imagine because the things that I've seen and heard, it goes from this being, a CIA operation to a Mossad operation to a Russian operation. This goes into potential satanic cults. This stretches into all different areas. But ultimately what it comes down to is control.
Yeah.
And the ability to have and assert control over the most important people in the world. And what this guy was doing, what he was best at, was getting compromising material on everybody. And how he did that was through a pedophile ring. And he would get compromising information on all of these different people that it's at a point where it's compromising information just to have an association with him.
Yeah.
Is compromising.
Literally.
That you may have had some other nefarious involvement. Because there are guys like, we already named Elon Musk.
Yeah.
Elon Musk comes up in a bunch of different emails and he talks about going to the island and partying.
But he's
at the
innocent,
island.
apparently.
But there's no record of him actually going specifically to the island. But there is emails about him asking when
When's
there will
the
be
craziest party?
What will be the best party night? Right. And this is, I used his name, but you could start inserting names anywhere.
Yeah, and Bill Gates, he's like, oh no, I'm only like had relationship with 2 women, but nothing illegal happened. But they were like best friends.
There's a lot of information about Bill Gates in here. And then and potentially that Bill Gates contracted an STD from 2 Russian prostitutes.
Yeah, that's who
he was asking Epstein to get him STD medication that he would secretly give to his wife, Melinda, so that way he could fight off an STD if he gave it to her.
Oh, shit.
That type of shit is what's going on. I mean, and that's obviously not been corroborated.
Right,
and there's no way he's coming out and saying that that's true.
Right.
He's admitted to having affairs with
the 2 women.
With Russian escorts.
Right.
But, there are so many people that enabled this to happen. And one of the big things that comes up is the client list, the black book, the names. There is to what we know, there's no client list.
No, there was.
There was a
black book.
We have, but there's not one database of these guys. There's
an actual book.
No, there's no actual book.
What happened was his assistant or his butler stole it.
I saw that video also. I saw that video also.
What are you laughing about?
Because I don't think there is one list. I think it comes down to, because what I'm saying is it's not just one like list of these are all the people. These
I'm understanding. Okay. Yeah. I got you.
It's so much more than that.
Yeah.
It's the flight logs. It's the victim statements where they're naming the people. That's the where the list comes from.
Yeah.
These different.
There's never going to be a list because it's a whole global network of pedophiles.
That's what I'm saying. Correct.
Yeah.
But I know what you're talking about.
Like,
the butler wrote down in his black book, like all the names, and he had multiple black books. Right. Okay. But that's not, this is so much more extensive than that.
Right.
That it, the ability of one person to record all of this.
No.
And it's just
not possible.
It's an operation.
Yeah.
And that operation is developing Kompromat, which is compromising material that is used by international assets to exert power over others, is, blackmail. So in the normal formal blackmail sense, there's no black book.
Right.
But there is enough proof, and there's a reason that all these names keep coming out. And like I said, we're talking deposition transcripts. We're talking investigations. We're also talking, FBI tip lines, which a lot of people will tell you that if you look through the FBI tip lines, that's where you get a lot of the really, really outlandish
which
allegations.
makes sense.
Some of those allegations
were corroborated.
Yes. Some of them disproven.
Bogus.
Right.
Yeah.
Because, there's one, there's so many. I'm not going to get into a specific one. But in any event, we have all of this material that is the sources for where this information comes from. But what we don't have is the videos that were allegedly taken in Epstein's house.
Oh, yeah.
It's known that in Epstein's houses, he had hidden cameras in all of the rooms and all of the bathrooms. That's corroborated by multiple different people.
Hold on, because all the computers and stuff we were talking about, there was also CDs in that. I want to say, I don't know why.
Stored. Yeah. Well, right. Well, there are, and there's copies.
Exactly.
And there are, a lot of that is missing.
Exactly.
The DOJ has said nobody else is going to be prosecuted because they don't have the evidence to prosecute them. There is certainly circumstantial evidence littered throughout the 3.5 million documents. They say they don't have the evidence to go after any of these other people. Is that because that evidence is existing in storage units spread out throughout the country or in lawyers' offices somewhere hidden? Is that where that quote unquote evidence is? That would actually allow more people to be prosecuted, because more people definitely should be prosecuted.
But the thing is, they are not exploring all of the avenues, despite certain evidence being corroborated, to further this investigation, to make an attempt to even locate where these storage units are. They're not even trying to fucking find them.
Well, no, I don't, because I think that they don't want to. They don't want this story to die.
Exactly.
Everybody in power wants this story to die.
Exactly. Especially the DOJ. They're like, go away, please.
Everybody.
Because
I think the DOJ knows ultimately how complicit in their own history they are as well in this whole thing.
Not only that, though, but how can they know this will dismantle the country?
Well, it would. It takes down leaders in all sectors.
Everywhere. So they know that this is something that needs to, they want it to be something that goes to bed, because if the people hold them accountable, it's going to be ugly, I think. I think it's going to be an issue.
And I think more
and they're going to have to
information will come out, and the relationships that countries have with each other will be negatively impacted by this.
And this all started from Palm Beach.
And it all started the
opening of it
starts in Palm Beach. Yeah.
Exactly. Where it started, who fucking knows?
So what we get from the different files that have currently been released is a lot of different names, hundreds and hundreds of different names. And we see people that show up repeatedly throughout the
file
documents.
Dump. Yeah.
And what we see in the people is there are certain people that are mentioned. It's a reach that they're mentioned. So, for example, people like Whoopi Goldberg is mentioned. Mm-hmm. Whoopi Goldberg is mentioned in relation to acquiring a plane for some organization or some event that she's going to. So she's in the Epstein Files. She's probably not anything to do with what everyone is concerned with the Epstein Files. And I use her as an example because there are other people like her that are in this that really don't have anything to do with it other than they're like mentioned like that.
Yeah.
But then there are people that certainly have a lot to do with it that are mentioned. And there are people that are very clearly ones that were enabling or co-conspirators with him in his actions.
A huge difference between purchasing a plane or whatever And
chartering a plane is and that's what she says. I don't obviously we don't know, but that's what somebody like a Whoopi Goldberg being tied to this whole thing. It
doesn't matter because she wasn't in his inner circle daily or going to party with him. It's like when you for you to say that you were just there to hang out with him and never knew about his prior history or never even saw criminal activity when this is all this man did. He literally got massages all fucking day. What do you mean?
Yeah.
And the people that were working for him have come out and said they see it all the time. So if you're around, and those are the people that say they witnessed certain people around Epstein that are in influential, political, whatever. And all of these things are they're coming out now, but it's a different set of circumstance. If you're within someone's inner circle, you kind of know how they move.
Right.
Especially if you're going on this private island.
That's what I was going to say. If you're visiting this guy in his
where
home,
he's actually trafficking women there young women.
There are a lot of people that went to the island, stayed at the island, or stayed in his apartment in New York, a townhouse apartment, whatever it is, a giant basically building. There are a lot of people that were...
And they're like, we don't know anything. We've never seen anything.
Right.
And to believe that versus Whoopi Goldberg, who's chartering a plane.
Right. It's difficult to believe. It's easy to believe that Whoopi Goldberg was just chartering a plane. It's difficult to believe that Bill Clinton just met him a few times when there's shirtless pictures of Bill Clinton in a hot tub. And there's a telecommunications guy that used to work at Epstein's Island that says he saw him sitting on the patio as clearly as I can see you sitting here. It's different. The idea that he met people at parties we have to be careful even using the word parties because I don't want to insinuate his type of parties versus events, big public events that people would meet him at or run into him. He traveled in very, big circles. Ghislaine Maxwell gave him a ton of access to a lot of very, very prominent people. Maxwell came from a family that had extremely deep ties in the royals of the UK, celebrities across the world, businessmen across the world. She's a very, very smart woman. And by a lot of accounts, really the ringleader of the actual prostitution ring part and some of the actual trafficking. She really was the ringleader behind that and kind of the brains behind the operation by all accounts. Because, like we already said, Epstein was kind of a nobody. He didn't graduate college. He wasn't this savant.
Yeah, she was the one that brought him up. She came from wealth. She came from resources and from basically royalty.
Right.
Her dad was a big deal.
Her dad was a titan of industry, and not only that, was very caught up with a lot of clandestine shit. When he was buried, the heads of Israel and Mossad were at his funeral, giving him a special funeral. I mean, he was but also died under very suspicious circumstances. He fell off of his boat.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of mystery that goes behind Ghislaine Maxwell's family.
Yeah.
And notoriety. And even when her father died, it came out that he embezzled all of this money from the pensions of all his employees.
Yeah.
And it also came out later that he was very heavily involved in selling software to different governments. That software would be used as a backdoor so that the rich and powerful would have a way to sneak into government computer systems and steal information that would allow them to do things like insider trading.
Literally, it's the same MO, but with a twist of pedophilia.
Correct. Well, because what Ghislaine Maxwell did was, from everything she learned from her father, she moved on and she found a new guy. And this guy was able to take that place, take that role. And she was able to expand that business. But really, she was in the business of helping develop compromising material on people.
Yeah.
And she was trafficking women and young girls and children to
as product,
and
literally,
to other people so that they would get caught on video with these people and they could use it against them for whatever they wanted. And there is so much information out there and evidence out there that corroborates all of this.
Yeah. Oh my God, it's so crazy because the deeper we get, and we haven't even touched the list of names that we want to talk about. I mean, I guess we did. We talked about Ghislaine, but
yeah. Well, let's talk about some names. I mean, you want to talk about how Epstein gets his money.
Yeah,
you start
Wexner.
with Les Wexner, owner of The Limited, owner of Victoria's Secret, Abercrombie and Fitch. Guy made a fortune.
Yeah. Wealthiest person.
Has ties to Epstein from the very beginning.
Yeah.
He gave Epstein a power of attorney over his finances. There are insinuations and allegations that they were lovers. Yeah. That there is a lot that shows that Epstein was able to get into personal wealth and wealthy circles through this relationship.
Yeah.
He's even gets his place in New York, Epstein's place in New York, was given to him by a trust from Wexner.
Yeah. Worth like $700 million or something like that.
And Wexner is known amongst, the top people in this country, and was in the investigations, was listed as a co-conspirator at different times, met with the DOJ, was interviewed by the DOJ. And there's a very famous interview of him that came out recently where he's sitting there talking and giving a lot of information, and his lawyer leans over to him and whispers in his ear, if you give another answer longer than 5 words, I'm going to fucking kill you.
Yeah.
And like this, this guy who now plays himself off as like an old man that just got conned, which is how he plays that's his role that he plays now. Is that, how did I, when you look at the interviews with him with the DOJ, he's like, well, I don't know how I got, I can only assume he was just such a good con man. It's like, no, bullshit. Like, you knew a lot more than you're fucking letting on
such
to.
Bullshit.
That guy is one of the biggest financial enablers to Epstein. And that's really where,
he started.
He starts.
Yeah.
You go to another major co-conspirator that was arrested, that was being prosecuted, that died under suspicious circumstances, in Jean-Luc Brunel.
Oh, yeah.
Now, this guy owns a modeling agency in Europe and is all over the Epstein files, and very clearly what his job was to get underage girls and transport them.
Yeah.
And transfer them.
He owned an agency.
And that's what he did.
And the way he did it was that the models believed that they would get a modeling gig by sleeping with his friend. And that's how it would start.
Did you know that in 1988, there's an interview with Diane Sawyer and some of these women? 1988. There's an interview with Diane Sawyer and some of these models that worked for him, talking about how if they were to deny what the requests were, to do whatever, to have sex with these men, to travel, to massage, to do whatever, if they would deny it, their careers were done.
Exactly.
And he would make it so they would get no more modeling contracts. They basically would be blacklisted from modeling.
Exactly.
So they were forced, whether they were of age or not, they were forced to participate in these things. And tell the story you were going to tell about him.
Yeah. So no, he was going to come out and actually snitch back in 2016, and was talking to the DOJ and was giving statements and giving them a lot of information. And Epstein found out, and same thing, got involved and was able to divert the prosecution. And suddenly Brunel is like, I don't want to, doesn't want to cooperate or talk to the DOJ.
And then ends up mysteriously dead.
Yes. So that is another kind of, he was being prosecuted.
Right.
And they ruled it a suicide while he was in custody.
Right.
But obviously,
which we don't really, suicide in custody is a theme in this case, in this situation that we have grown to know is kind of bullshit.
Yeah, everything. Yeah. Everything is. So he was also another important figure, and he got the other attorney, I'm trying to remember her name, Catherine, what's her name?
Catherine Rumler, which we're about to talk about next.
Yeah, because she's involved in this too, because she's an attorney, and that's the thing. When It's funny because I'm thinking about it and I'm like, Epstein was probably surrounding himself with so many attorneys because attorney-client privilege is like, oh, like you cannot touch this, right? You know, so I'm just thinking about it now.
He had tons of attorneys.
Literally,
he had attorneys that were personal attorneys that were his the in control of his trusts and his estates.
Exactly,
he had people all over the place.
It's not just like oh, like you're my attorney. No, like she was like calling him like Uncle Jeff and like. So
let's talk about her because she's a big one. We talk about her being an attorney. She's not just an attorney.
Right.
You and I are attorneys.
Right,
okay?
right. Fine, fair.
This woman was one of the top lawyers in the country, and that's up until recently. Because literally this week that we're recording this. So Catherine Rumler served under Obama as White House counsel.
Yes.
She served recently as the head of legal at Goldman Sachs. She's no small
it's a big deal.
Fry.
Yeah.
And she had a very close relationship, thousands and thousands of emails with Jeffrey Epstein. After his 2009 and 2008
conviction. Right.
Okay. So what do we know from the files about her? Let's talk about a really interesting thing. And this connection is something that connects a lot. This is a lot of different high-powered connections all at once. Catherine Rumler and Jeffrey Epstein were both hired by the Rothschild Bank in Europe.
Yeah. To
represent them and negotiate a deal with the Department of Justice.
Well, the DOJ had discovered.
The DOJ discovered, and I think this was pretty well known, that wealthy Americans were hiding money and, avoiding taxes and
doing basically tax evasion
with
the bank.
This bank.
Yeah.
And the DOJ was investigating the bank, and in order to avoid prosecution, which who knows could have led to the names of all those people that were hiding money, Rothschild Bank hires Catherine Rumler and non-lawyer Jeffrey Epstein to negotiate a deal. So what does this do? This tells us right then and there's a connection between Epstein and the DOJ.
Right there.
Because he was working with the DOJ. So you're telling me that this guy now could say, oh, I'm an asset for the DOJ. I work with the DOJ. I organize deals with the DOJ. Well, that's one way to try to avoid prosecution in your own case, is to be able to say, to have Alan Dershowitz explain to Acosta, oh, well, he does work with the CIA, the DOJ, the FBI, whoever. He's a huge asset to the United States, so that you can't prosecute him. Just another one of the reasons that they could possibly use to try to
get him out of the prosecution.
Right.
And so as a result of this negotiation, there is no prosecution of any wealthy Americans or this bank. And
the bank pays a fine to the DOJ and pays Catherine Rumler and pays millions of dollars, both of them.
Yeah. He got 25.
He got $25 million.
And she got
$12 million. I think they spent about 45 or so that was their fine, 45 million. And Jeffrey Epstein sends them an email. He goes, okay, well, this is my fee. This is Catherine's fee. And you're spending less than 80 million and this whole problem is going away. And it's just plain as day out there, right there in the
files.
So Catherine Rumler is helping, helps Epstein
basically evade any sort of crime. Basically, that's what I think from all the files that's what's been coming out. And that's why that's why her name even came up, because of when he was getting reinvestigated in 2016 because of Brunel's cooperation, she was the one that got involved. And she got another attorney involved and coordinated a phone call that day. And ultimately, now her spokespeople have since said, she didn't say it herself, but her people came out and said, she did the right thing as his attorney. She diverted it to the correct person that needed to handle whatever it was. And she wasn't involved in that conversation. She didn't speak to him on that day because there was an email tying a phone call to them speaking on a specific date that was connected to Brunel and his complaints towards the DOJ against Epstein in 2016. So she has this common theme where she's involved every single time he's investigated, or not. Actually, not just every time he's investigated, she's involved like pretty much throughout the years, and has this very close relationship with him, but now only claims that it's just like professional and was never anything more than a professional relationship when there was clearly a personal relationship there.
Well, you can't hide from calling him Uncle Jeffrey and Sweetie in your emails when they all come out. And that's the reason why she is no longer the head of legal at Goldman Sachs. Because this has all come out and she's now
so fucking
out
crazy.
Of the job.
Yeah. Voluntarily.
She was one of the top legal minds under Obama and was potentially in a position where she almost was the attorney general. And now she is very, very, very clearly implicated in what a lot of things that were going on with Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah.
There's not a smoking gun that ties her specifically to the sex trafficking or to the some of the other things, but there is a very clear relationship that's set, and the implications of that relationship alone are enough to be wrong.
Exactly.
So we move on.
Another obvious one.
Yeah.
Prince Andrew.
So Prince Andrew.
I feel like he'd be.
How does Prince Andrew? Yeah. So Prince Andrew, who was arrested recently, for in the UK, for I don't know the name suspicion
of like basically giving the insider secrets of the country.
Suspicion of misconduct in public office.
Yeah, giving privileged information to like private information to Epstein about things involving the royal family, the UK government.
How does he get involved with Epstein? That's through Ghislaine Maxwell. Ghislaine Maxwell knew Prince Andrew, knew the royal family, and was able to make the relationship happen with Prince Andrew. Now, Prince Andrew has tried to distance himself from this from the very beginning, but as soon as the photograph of him and Virginia Giuffre came out, who's one of the victims in the case, as soon as the photograph of him came out with his arm around her waist when she's a teenager and Ghislaine Maxwell in the back, it's very difficult for him to do anything separate. And now,
but he's not being charged for that.
No, but we don't know what the allegations are in that case. It's not the same system here, so it's not like they have it's not like the indictment's been opened up and we can see exactly what he's being charged with and what the factual allegations are. We don't know yet. But I mean, the guy was stripped of his royal titles. He, the newest dump of documents that came out, there are tons of pictures of him in the documents that, with young women.
Yeah.
He absolutely was involved and knew what was going on. And there are multiple victims that say that they were forced to have sex with him. So he's very heavily implicated. One of the, tops of the royal family, they always say that he was the queen's favorite son. So,
makes a lot of sense. She probably enabled that behavior too.
Well,
Well, I was going to say, obviously, there has been a recent arrest, too, with the ambassador, the U.S. ambassador.
Correct, the former U.S. ambassador to the UK, who's another person who they're going
charged with the same thing.
Exactly right. They're looking at the misconduct a suspicion of misconduct in public office for what his potential involvement was.
Yeah.
But then you have guys like Jess Staley, who was the CEO at Barclays, who was big in running investments at JP Morgan. This is a guy that is still out and about, and his connection to Jeffrey Epstein through the emails is really bad. He sends Jeffrey Epstein emails in 2010. There's a July 10th, 2010 email where he says that to Jeffrey Epstein, "That was fun. Say hi to Snow White for me."
Oh, yeah.
Now, Snow White is referenced multiple times in Jeffrey Epstein's emails, and they are references that relate to a person being dressed up as Snow White, the insinuation that an underage girl is being dressed up in that costume. It goes beyond just being an insinuation, because there's also a piece of art out there that's floating around that our viewers can look up that is a painting that depicts a man that looks just like Jess Staley, standing without a shirt on, in his underwear, next to and there's a bed next to him, And on the bed, there's a stack of money that says JP Morgan on it. And to the left of him in the picture, there is a mirror. And when you look through the mirror, this is a painting. White. There is a young girl dressed as Snow White in the mirror.
Wait, did you see this?
Yeah, I saw the picture. I've seen the painting on it.
I gotta look it up.
So this exists, and the painting looks exactly like him. Like it's not. There's no mistake of who the painting is supposed to be.
Do you know? Who
and
painted
now there's.
it?
I don't know who painted it. And now there is very clearly him in email saying, "Say hi to Snow White for me." And these emails that Jeffrey Epstein had with other individuals about Snow White all came in the weeks leading up to this email that he sends about that he had fun, say hi to Snow White.
That is so crazy.
Very,
I didn't know
crazy.
that the painting was public like that. You can just look it up.
The painting's out there.
Oh my God. That's so crazy.
That's another person. Let's talk more about some of the other people that have been kind of taken down recently. You have the Sultan Ahmed Ben Sulayem. I'm butchering his name. Sulayem. He was the head of CEO of DP Global, which was one of the largest shipping companies in the world in Dubai. He had a personal relationship with Epstein, stayed on his island multiple times. There's pictures of him and Epstein in the kitchen cooking together.
That's so crazy.
And he is now out of his job. He's no longer the head of DP Global. And a lot of people have cut ties with DP Global over this.
Yeah.
But that guy was a shipping magnate, and he is one of the men that was named by 2 congressmen recently. There was a list of 6 names that came out that were all redacted throughout the files that were released. And 2 congressmen have revealed some of those names, his name being one of them. Right. And there is a tie between this guy and an email between him and Epstein that was to the effect of Epstein saying, "I liked the torture video." And they were sending back correspondence, images, videos between each other. This guy was heavily involved. This guy is in charge of global shipping for one of the largest shipping companies in the world.
Wonder what they were shipping.
Exactly right.
Well, right. There's all this talk about
human trafficking in shipping containers is not a new theory.
No, and the Wayfair stuff and like all of these things that were coming out actually at the time of this that was not connecting Epstein. It was back in 2019, 2020 is when all of the Wayfair stuff was coming out saying that they're human trafficking people in furniture and all of this stuff that's happening. And it's now making sense. Like you're literally emailing with people who own the largest shipping
company in the
world. And you're connected to all of these people all throughout the world. Not to mention, this is another person, Larry Summers.
Go for it. So Larry Summers, Larry Summers, who was an American economist, he served as the 71st United States Secretary of the Treasury from 1999 to 2001. He was president of Harvard University. Yeah. He just stepped down from Harvard this week.
Like, that is a huge deal. That is a huge deal. Like, all of these people in all of these records. Yeah, and all these people in all these high places are bowing out. Like, there's just a lot of things that I'm like.
Well, when you look and you see what these people's positions were and where they held power, you can see that, Epstein ingrained himself with categories of people. You have the financial sector of people. Okay. We talked already about Jess Staley. We talked a little bit about, obviously Catherine Rumler had financial ties. There are other, people that had strong ties to financial institutions. Then you have the big tech people. There was a big group of tech people that he had, whether that was Reid Hoffman, who goes on to, was one of the original PayPal guys and goes on to form LinkedIn, who has interestingly involved now also because Reid Hoffman, taking a side note, is a big donor to the organizations behind the push to release all of the Epstein files, only for when those Epstein files to be released, he's all over them.
Yeah.
So
that's really weird.
Very weird.
Like,
Well,
why are you
because-
wanting to expose this?
Because he's hoping that there's going to be information against Trump in there, and he's hoping that there's going to be information against people that he doesn't like.
So what?
But he's all over it.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's God. That's why goes across all political spectrums. It goes against all religions. It goes against all different countries and nationalities. You have we already talked about Bill Gates. You talk about a guy like Peter Thiel, who is a big venture capitalist guy, a guy that was one of the PayPal guys. He's also the huge company Palantir, which is tons of shit all about that right now.
And to think about how he got people successful, obviously he's hanging out with all these people so he can know the information he needs to know in order to maintain his status with these people.
And he's got access to all of these people that make the biggest decisions in terms of, growing technology, growing the financial markets, he knows all of these players. It's not just business. It's also the
every
politics.
Industry.
He knows, we talked about Bill Clinton, and he was in the White House a bunch of times, and Bill Clinton flew on his plane a bunch of fucking times.
That's so crazy.
Then you look at other members of there's different organizations that he kind of like ingrains himself with. So he was involved with a lot of guys in UK Parliament. He was involved with a lot, and we don't know the extent of the congressmen and things in this country that he was involved in, because I'm sure some of those are the redacted names,
it's still hidden.
Some of the things that are still hidden.
Yeah.
Right. So, he had a lot of access to all different types of people. Howard Lutnick is another one. That's a financial guy and a guy that has got political ties.
Yeah.
He was involved with so many different people that he was able to, know the tops of industries. He would tell people he was consulting with, you mentioned Jeff Bezos before. He would tell people he was consulting with the heads of Google, the heads of this, the heads of that. And he was able to continue developing his own wealth by fostering these relationships, and was developing dirt on all of these people.
Yeah.
So the insider information he had to develop his own wealth.
Exactly.
And then the dirt that he would get on these people to
two
make
for
it
one.
So he could exert control and dominance over whatever he wanted.
Yeah, it's kind of a brilliant strategy. And it's exactly what Ghislaine Maxwell's father was doing.
And it's exactly right.
That exact.
But this is not new in terms of the idea of Kompromat, which is I believe a Russian word. The whole premise is developing compromising material to be able to exert control. And that's what they were doing at their core. This guy was a sicko, and he was engaged in, sex with underage women. But that was his hobby.
Yeah, exactly.
What he was doing was developing information. And the question becomes, who was he developing that information for? There are ties that tie him clearly to the CIA. There are ties that tie him to Mossad. There are ties that tie him to Russian agents. And it's all in the emails. When he's talking in emails about getting new surveillance software or new surveillance tools for his apartment in New York, they mention, you may want to speak with the Russians about that because they could probably help him with certain equipment.
Like what?
It's very clear and very obvious.
Exactly.
They were not hiding. His relationship with Ehud Barak, who is was the former prime minister of Israel. His relationship with him was very well documented, and this guy was staying in his apartment in New York multiple times.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the
scale it's on
the scale is massive,
yeah,
and it touches all of these different
and for it to be global. Exactly. I was just going to say, for him to be able to expand this network and to make it so huge that he could literally be increase his wealth to be one of the wealthiest, or probably the wealthiest in the world, if he's able to do this type of have this network connected to all these people.
Yeah.
He probably was
at the top of the wealth game.
Exactly. Right. And to be able to do that and to like, it's just, I don't know. To be able to do both at the same time, it's really crazy. And it's just like, once you have dirt on somebody, they own you. They own you. Right. And especially when you have political influence and control like that, right. In your own. Yes, exactly. So once you hit each like spot and you have something in every industry, every country, who has the control now, Right. And it's like, and what you were saying earlier, I don't know if it was on this episode or the one before, but where it's like the manner in which they're dumping the files. It's right. And they're just not wanting certain things to be found out because of what is happening.
Well, and you made this point also, the instability that it causes on a global scale to bring all this information to light. The fact that, I mean, there are so many things. Here's another interesting thing. There is a airline company that was run by the CIA. Okay. Believe it was Southern Airlines, run by the CIA. Somehow Jeffrey Epstein gets involved and sells the airline as part of the sale of the airline to a group, to a trust. The trust is owned by the Limited, which is Les Wexner. And these planes, these giant jumbo jets that were used by the CIA for whatever purpose all over the world, he is somehow involved with brokering a deal to get them into the control of the Limited at some point. How? I don't know. But that shows a connection between him and the CIA.
Well, being in possession of anything that's transporting anything, especially something large enough to hold humans in this situation, is suspicious to me. So
I agree with you.
I'll say that much. But
I agree with you.
And also, well, the same parallel happened with Susan Hamblin, because she was a founder of this adoption agency. I don't think it was adoption agency. It was definitely a way to human traffic.
Absolutely.
Girls for Jeffrey Epstein. She was one of his, I'm putting quotes around victims in case people aren't going to watch.
So let's talk. So one of the things that I mentioned was there was a lot of people that enabled him post the 2009 conviction, the case ending in 2008. But post that time, there were a lot of people that enabled him. There is a group of girls that some of which, and most of them were initially redacted in the files. Their involvement with him is categorized that they were trafficked by him or he victimized them, and then they became co-conspirators. But because they initially started off as victims, they were given that redacted status. Hamlin, for example, she took a plea.
Yeah.
And she, being a co-conspirator, took a plea, was initially redacted because she went into that victim status.
Right.
And so she, was able to be hidden until recently, until a Florida representative recently kind of.
Well, I also saw a video where somebody found her email on like not fully redacted in the files as well.
Well, she in a 2014 email writes to Jeffrey Epstein, "Thank you for a fun night. Your littlest girl was a little naughty."
That's the one I'm talking about. And that one, her email is revealed.
Right. And that's very clear. And, she, and you have to, we have to be careful. And so does everybody else that goes through all these files, because one of the things that she's done already is there was a news agency that I believe accused her of grooming a 16-year-old girl for Epstein for the purpose of being, sexually abused. And she sued for defamation against
and what?
And won.
Okay.
And they had released a statement that she, that's not true, that she didn't do that. But she very clearly was involved and very clearly.
Well, she vanished for a while.
Right. But she takes a plea, like she's very clearly involved. And now her emails are so, people thought that these emails were from a guy at first that she had sent to Jeffrey Epstein because people couldn't believe
that it was a woman.
People didn't believe that was a woman. let alone a potential prior victim of his that would be sending out these emails. But she was not alone. She was in a group of girls that include an important name, Karina Shuliak, who is Epstein's last known girlfriend, who was the person that Epstein
left
transferred
everything to,
a lot of his assets to,
allegedly
$100 million in cash and then different properties.
Yeah.
He spoke to her for 20 minutes the night before he allegedly hung himself, which we're going to talk about on episode 3 because that's bullshit. But she is at the center of a second wave of all of this stuff.
Yeah.
She's in pictures with him. You know, one of the things that I said initially was the DOJ has come out and said there's not enough evidence to prosecute anybody else. If you look carefully through the different files, there's evidence of so much more than just human trafficking.
Yeah.
There's evidence of immigration fraud. There's evidence of different fraud in terms of hiding assets, hiding paintings. They had, millions and millions and millions of dollars worth of art that from all different artists that has been funneled through different trusts and is valued by, one auction house at one thing so that they could, not have to pay
the full whatever.
Right. And versus it's worth more on another thing so that they could use it as leverage to get
so
assets
crazy.
from banks. Like what they were doing and what they were hiding. And the reason I bring this all up was Karina Shuliak was basically fast tracked to be an American citizen in order for her to get into a dental program. And he arranged that. He, being Epstein, arranged for that to happen. So there's crimes. Well, there's evidence of a lot of different types of crimes.
That was his MO every time he would lure a girl in. It was like, I can do something for you.
Of course.
Every single time. Even the girls he brought on that they're in the documentary, the Netflix documentary, the girls are talking about how this affected them. They were like, I thought it was a great opportunity. I needed to go here. I needed to go on this trip. I had my future. They were like, straight A's. There was one girl that was like a straight A student that wanted to go abroad for school or something. And he made it happen.
Right.
And that's how she got connected with him. And so he has this MO where he's like, not just like outright being like, oh, like being a weirdo. If he's interacting with one of the girls directly, he's always like, oh, well, I can do something for you.
And that's
how he gets in. And
draw.
that's a part of the control, too.
Of course.
Because he brought her, speaking on Karina specifically, if you think about it, she is younger. And I mean, younger, I don't think she's younger under the age of 18, but like a younger compared to his age. Mm-hmm. And was brought to this country and into a dental program via Epstein. How is she going to live otherwise? Like,
and it wasn't just a dental program. I'm pretty sure it was Columbia. Like
it wasn't just any dental program.
Like a very top, which she got into because of his connections.
Right.
He made a phone call and got her in.
So to have that type of, like, you probably, I mean, I'm not trying to give her the benefit of the doubt, but thinking from that perspective, you probably can only think to do so much. Why would you stop somebody that's doing bad things when they're helping you?
Well, and she thought they were going to get married. So
exactly.
She was, banking on whatever else that would come with that. But obviously that includes being a part of his ring.
Exactly.
The trafficking. It's all inclusive of that.
Yeah. And the thing is, she was, I think she, do you know where she's at now, actually?
I don't. I read something that she was, I think, practicing dentistry in the Bahamas, but I'm not sure if that's okay. I'm not sure if that's accurate.
That's interesting.
But I don't know what
considering he allegedly left her so much money in the Virgin Islands.
Well, if she was able to get that money, one of the things that's interesting, and we'll talk about this in episode 3. In the days before he allegedly killed himself, he moved all of his assets into a trust and moved that trust into the Virgin Islands. So that way it was not something that victims, when they could get, restitution from him would be something that it would be unreachable for them because of whatever the financial laws are regarding that. And trust me, it's not like, in that asset movement that he did, they talked about assets in the amount of about $500 million. This guy had more money than that.
100%.
And he had more money in different places.
Everywhere.
So, those are just assets that were just sort of known about.
A bank account in every country in the world.
And probably under all different names and all different pseudonyms.
Exactly.
And absolutely.
To think of how widespread this operation was and how global and the people that were involved and their how much money just each individual involved they're worth.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can't imagine that.
Well, he was interacting, and it's not. It is true to say he was interacting with the wealthiest people in the world.
And
regularly.
And they were his customers.
Right.
So who was the wealthiest person in the world actually? Is
Elon Musk.
I think that he probably had so much money that it wasn't.
I think
you could not even put a figure on it.
Epstein had more money than they ever were able to.
Exactly.
They ever will be able to find.
Exactly.
And based on what we'll talk about in episode 3, he's probably still using it now. And he's probably still accessing it now under different names.
That's when everyone's going to be like, all right, we don't know if we want to.
Well, that's the funny thing. It's like, does episode 3 make you go into how down the rabbit hole do you go in episode 3? And that's what we will definitely get to.
Literally.
But basically, at this point, there's, like we said, 3.5 million documents have been released. Nobody that I know of has sat and gone through all 3.5 million documents. But every day, every few minutes, something else is found that people start talking about, and it sparks something happening. As much as we all really do want the more people to be prosecuted, which we do want, we are seeing ramifications from these records coming out, causing things to happen.
Like people stepping down from
positions, people being fired from positions.
But I think
people being arrested in other countries. We're seeing,
but they're not being they're not being arrested and charged appropriately. And these people stepping down, I feel like, are hiring PR companies that are telling them exactly what they need to do and say. And especially
kind of like what Catherine Rumler used to do for Epstein.
And I was going to say,
when he had a bad reputation.
Exactly. And when it came to Catherine Rumler this week, she herself didn't utter the words.
Right.
Her legal team, or actually her probably as an attorney, knows not to say anything or comment on anything. So things that are happening, it's very strategic. I don't think there's coincidences. I don't think it's to be honorable. I think it's to...
I don't think it's to be honorable at all.
I think it's all to further a cover-up that, to make... I mean, obviously, this is being exposed, so it's not that it's still being covered up, but to make sure certain things don't come to light anymore.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah, I think I think more... What I think is going to happen, I think more names are going to come out.
Mm-hmm.
I think there will be more evidence that comes out.
Yes.
There will be a renewed call to prosecute people. And eventually it's going to get to a point where the DOJ is going to have to shit or get off the pot. And
exactly.
Either prosecute people or explain why they're sitting on evidence and not prosecuting people. And we'll never get an answer to that.
I think that's going to cause, that's going to wreak havoc with people if people are not prosecuted. I think it's going to cause a lot of chaos.
Well, it's causing it right now.
Yes, but I think in a way this
whole system has been designed, this whole thing has been designed to instill chaos and make chaos happen. The way that the data is released, the documents that are released, all of this is,
and this is only a fraction.
Make people go crazy over this situation.
Yeah.
And rightfully so, because it's outlandish. It's horrible that people are not being held accountable for this situation. And for us to say, oh, well, Ghislaine Maxwell is in jail and Epstein is dead. So
nothing we can do about it.
Nothing we can do about it. It's like, that's not enough.
No, that's not. Yeah, it's not.
And it wouldn't be enough in any other situation.
No. No.
So,
but because we're talking about certain people, it is. So
we're talking about the top of the top, and they protect each other.
Yeah.
And that's the way that it is. It's the people with the most amount of resources and compromising material protect each other.
Yeah.
It's
with
wild.
All of that.
It's wild.
I know. This is I think we should continue doing updates on Epstein. I think this is a really important thing to discuss. And I find that it's very heavy for me when I think about how grand the scheme is, because it's scary. It's scary when you think about the information we don't know, and that this is only a fraction, literally a fraction of the shit that's coming out. Like, we are only getting a portion of what exists, and a lot of it is redacted. So we don't have all the information. And that's what scares me, because of the information we do already have and how the extent it could go.
We should also make a mention of some of the evidence that doesn't come out. For some of it, I'm not giving an excuse to all of it, but for some of the evidence that doesn't come out, the evidence that contains child abuse material or, kiddie porn, for lack of a better term, or certain things about victims, some of that stuff is obviously kept out and obviously redacted.
That's one of
But we don't know how much of everything that makes up.
Exactly.
We don't know exactly what is in all of the files that have not been released. And, the things that have come out, the redactions have been sloppy. Some of the redactions make sense. A lot of them don't make any sense. Sometimes victims aren't redacted at all. And sometimes people that aren't victims are being redacted because we're trying to shield people from public shame and public, humiliation. That's not the standard. And under the Transparency Act, it's very clear that people should not be redacted or hidden because it may cause them some, it may be uncomfortable for them or it may be embarrassing.
Yeah, that's not a reason.
That's not a reason.
That's not the legal standard.
Correct. And it's clearly there. It says that that's not a reason to do that. So the problem is that the tops of the tops protect each other, and there are too many people involved to stop that from happening.
Literally.
Yeah.
All right.
But in the next episode, in episode 3, we're going to talk about the conspiracy theories that are coming out.
Which there's so many.
And we call them conspiracy theories, but a lot of them have a good amount of evidence to back them up. Yeah. So for them to be just conspiracies is probably not the case.
Yeah. But technically people could be listening to this episode and be like, they have tinfoil hats on. That's for damn sure. But I don't think so. I think if you start reading curious about things,
if you read the emails, if you do some of the research and you start learning about who the players are involved, a lot of the things that seem like they were conspiracies are no longer things that are conspiracies.
Exactly.
And, there are certainly conspiracies that have been debunked already, and we'll mention maybe some of them on the next episode, but a lot of them haven't been. And the evidence continues to stack in a direction that points to the sum of all fears, the scenario, the case being as bad as it seems. The evidence points at it really being that bad.
The worst case scenario.
The way that children are trafficked, what is happening, the destruction of evidence, including humans. Like, we don't know a lot right now still, but there is evidence to show certain things. And then there's also certain conspiracies that we're never going to know the answer to, like whether or not Epstein is still alive. And that's something we're going to talk about next episode. So make sure you come back for the 3rd episode of Come Back with a Warrants 3-piece series on Epstein and the Epstein Files.
Yeah. So with that, If you liked listening to the show, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. We're on all platforms. Come back with a warrant.pod. Give us a 5-star review and make sure you subscribe to our weekly newsletter and check out our merch that we're wearing right now. And if you didn't like listening to us,
come back with a warrant.
The San Francisco Symphony performs Berlioz's bold and dramatic masterpiece, Symphonie Fantastique. Then pianist Jean-Yves Thibaudet brings his unmistakable artistry to the spotlight for a performance of Saint-Saëns Piano Concerto No. 5. Experience it live at the San Francisco Symphony, March 26 through 28. Tickets at sfsymphony.org.